Hi guys, Professor Ubrin here, just continuing this week's unit on publishing. And we've moved through the various stages of publishing, from the Rosetta Stone through manuscripts and the printing press, right up to dot matrix printers and the internet, where material might no longer need paper or ink to be published, but simply a screen. Now, this all came about through the rise of the internet. Now, there was a rudimentary internet in existence from the 1970s on. You might even argue that there was some sort of an internet on there in the 1960s. What it really was a protocol that allowed, let's say, a scholar in New York to dial up a computer using telephone lines in Denver or Los Angeles, and get that distant computer to send him a digitized version of the file he wanted automatically. This is where we get the FT in concepts like FTP. And you may have used FTP. You probably have. You might not know you've used it, because it is a way of getting files from other computers. And the process is usually hidden behind your web browser. But the FT stands for file transfer. Typically, you would use a command line interface. You might even be able to log into the remote computer using a command line, and then using a relatively arcane communication language, be able to search that distant computer and get it to send the file so that it would be downloaded to your local computer. Now, it was a slow process. Some of you may remember dial-in internet service in the 1990s and in the noughties, where you might get a baud rate of 300 or 400, and you could actually hear the data being transferred in the form of sound on your telephone modem. Now, here's where Tim Berners-Lee comes in the 1990s. There's a rudimentary ability to transfer files from one computer to another since the 1970s, but there's no standardized way of doing it. It involves a lot of mucking around at command line level and knowing arcane file transfer protocol languages, commands, excuse me. So Tim Berners-Lee comes up with hypertext markup language. Now, he originally planned this so that you would simply be presented with a selection of the files you wanted visually, and using your mouse or some other way of navigating that page, you would click on whatever file you wanted and it would be downloaded to your computer. Basically, he automated FTP, file transfer protocol. So HTML started out as a very rudimentary system. You had to have a program installed on your computer called World Wide Web. You would run that computer and it would automatically seek out other computers. The idea of web addresses or websites was quite foreign at the time. But HTTP would basically lay out your file options in the same way that Microsoft Word would lay out lines of text. You would simply click on whatever you wanted and the file transfer would occur. Now, you might not have thought of files as somebody who has used a command line like myself thinks of files. You might see your computer as a visual presentation. You might not even be aware that there's a file system in there. Now, I'm going to have to assume that you are running a PC with Windows 10. And that might not be the case. You might actually have an Apple product. And if that's the case, then you're just going to have to fend for yourself. There are ways of doing all these things with Macs, but I'm just going to talk you through the PC system. Now, if you click on a file, not a folder, let's turn that around. Sorry, if you click on a folder, not a file, you will be presented with the contents of that folder, usually in visual format. But if you look at the left-hand side of the resultant window, you'll see that there are various places where files are stored. The most obvious one is the C drive, and there's a little discussion of C drives on page 2 of the document that accompanies this lecture, HTML, World Wide Web, and the Internet. Now, let's say you want to see your folders in a command line setting. All you have to do is click on the Windows search box in the bottom left of your screen and type in command line. I'm just going to do that now to be sure that that's actually what I get. Sometimes it's called something else, and indeed command prompt. And if you click the resultant program, which is actually just a window into the guts of your computer, then simply type the command dir, which stands for directory, and return, and it will return to you all of the files that are contained in that folder. It'll tell you how large they are, what their full names are, when the files were last saved, etc. Now, we're going to save a HTML file to our hard drive, and we're going to do that by clicking on the search box again at the bottom left of our screens and typing Notepad, P-A-D, Notepad, and that will simply open up the Microsoft Word Notepad app. It's a tiny little word processor, basically. We're going to type any old text in there, and we're going to save as, and we're going to type anything we like, really. I'm going to type in document, type HTML, and that should allow us save the document as a HTML document. But honestly, the only thing that describes this as a HTML document is the HTML at the end of the name. There isn't actually any HTML code there. Now, how does that file become available to other people? Well, if your computer isn't connected to the internet in any way, it isn't searchable, is it? At least from outside. You can search it from inside the computer. But if you want to make your computer available, or if you want to go searching yourself, you're going to have to identify your computer. Essentially, it becomes a server. And that means your computer needs an address on the internet. Now, I would recommend that you open up a command prompt again. Again, all you have to do is type in the search box and type command prompt in, and you'll be given the option of choosing that. And then when you get the command prompt, type in ipconfig, ipconfig, and that will tell you what the internet settings for your computer are. And you are interested in what it tells you after IPv6 address. That is the address of your computer for any other computer in the world that wants to find your computer. And essentially, you can then set up the file system of your computer under that IP address. Now, I'm simplifying things considerably, but the point is, your IP address is basically the starting point from which your computer becomes searchable from other computers. Now, I know I'm simplifying things, and there's an expert on this is going to tell me there's an awful lot more that goes on, and it's true, there is. But the point is, you can make your local file system available internationally, and that's more or less what happens when you want the files in your computer to be available to other computers in the world. Now, if you open the PDF document accompanying this exercise, you'll see that I have made live the hyperlink to the very first web page ever written in the world. You can click on that and it will actually bring you to cern.ch, info.cern.ch. And there you will find the very first web page ever put up. It's an HTML file, and basically it's a hyperlink plus a little description of what's in the hyperlink. Now, what I want you to do is to make your own HTML page. And I'm going to do that by asking you to go to the trinket that I've hyperlinked from this document. I'm just going to open that myself to be sure that it actually opens. And indeed, a website at trinket.io opens up. Now, all you get is two windows here. The first shows the HTML code in the box on the left, and the second shows the resulting web page on the right. So you can see there's a lot of hidden HTML text. Essentially, anything between carets in the HTML code is hidden text. HTML is told not to show that in the resulting page. However, you'll see on the left, the hidden code is available, and on the right, you just see the page as it's seen by a web browser. Now, what I want you to do is to change the text on the left so that it is specific to you. Just put your own name in, put the name of the university in or something, and make sure that the text on the right still shows up. This time, of course, with your name and whatever personal information else you want to put in there. And then I want you to take a screen copy of that, and I want you to put it up under whatever the relevant place is in Blackboard. Like it says something like Trinket Screen Capture. Just drag and drop the screen grab in there. Now, essentially, all HTML code is written using those carets. So you'll see that the text is described at the start using caret head, close caret, open caret head, close caret. Then some information is provided, again inside carets, and then open caret slash head, close caret. And that basically says we are closing the head. So there's an opener and a closer. And that's how HTML parenthesizes its code. So you can see in the body of the text itself, which is opened with open caret body, close caret, you get open caret P, close caret, my name is Andy, open caret slash P, close caret, and that just means that bit of HTML coding has now been opened and closed, and that text is going to be presented. So you'll see what happens on the other side. And you'll see there are ways of making the text bold and making the text italics. And again, this just involves I and /I, or B and /B, all of it in carets. So if you can succeed in changing the text on the right-hand side of the screen, congratulations, you have written a little bit of HTML. And this is essentially the backbone of the entire internet. HTML has changed considerably in the 20 or 30 years it has been around, but the concept is still the same. The idea is you should be able to present documents using hyperlinks that when you click on them, you get those documents. HTML has become a world of its own. You can now lay out newspaper front pages, you can lay out books, you can lay out anything you can imagine in HTML. So it has become more than simply a document linking language. It has become a presentation language for the internet as well. So that's HTML, and that's the end of this exercise. So I hope you enjoyed it or will be able to use it in some way. And I'm expecting those screen grabs as soon as possible.